Bonkowski, before I get to that, I want to tell you I've been guest, okay? A surprise guest, and I'm going to tell you who it is. This is at 1:45, and it is going to be the new head coach of the Mercer Bears men's basketball team, Greg Gary, new rival coach against ETSU, and he'll be joining me at 1:45. This is a last-minute thing. Mercer called me. I'd asked her, you know how much you love that, and all this, but sometimes this happens that way. I know this is sort of how you got your interview recently with Danica Patrick. They sort of call, hey, you want to do this here? Yeah, sure, and all this. I put the inquiry in several weeks ago, and all of a sudden I get this thing, Jerry, that says, hey, can we do it today? What about this time? Okay, let's do it. Didn't have much of a chance to promote it, but we can at least spread it around. Gee, where to begin with Richmond? How much longer do you think Kyle Busch is going to be extending his dominance? You know how I was impressed in Bristol, how he was the first car to wreck, and then he won the race. Can anybody beat him these days? It just seems, I know that he hasn't won every race, but he's finished in the top 10 in every race. Can anybody slow him down?
Well, as you and I have talked about over the years, Kyle Busch is so good that Marky, I'll be honest, we're eight races this season, and we still got another 28 more to go. This could be, in my opinion, the greatest season he's ever had.
Wow.
I have a feeling about it. Call it a gut feeling, whatever you want to call it. I just think that he could really. He's got 3 wins now. I would not be surprised to see him get 10 wins this year. Not be surprised by that at all. I think that it's his year. He has shown that even in the races that he hasn't won, he's been competitive in all of them. He hasn't really had a bad race. He's been phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So, I think that, going forward, he could very easily win tomorrow night at Richmond. I think he can win. I think he can go 10 wins this year.
We're talking Jerry Bonkowski, the right rev of speed, and talking about 10 victories for, Kyle Busch. And I see no reason why that couldn't happen either. I want to ask, what would the new style of face of NASCAR? Because, NASCAR, it's always been years. There's been almost, when you talk to some of the drivers, in my opinion, okay, you can kind of see maybe a little bit of a propaganda feel. Oh boy, the car real red. I want to thank all our sponsors and the crew chief and all this sort of stuff. It's very much high road and all this. Busch, he'll tell it like it is. He'll be oh boy, I hope nobody blows a tire the way they're asking us to drive in Bristol and all that. But do you think that could actually be good? In 2019, should we have a more honest face of the sport?
I don't know if I would call it honest. There are honest. I think that certainly they want to put as much of a positive spin on what they say. They obviously want to promote their sponsors and things like that. But I think probably a better word for Kyle is he's blunt. And yeah. I think that's what fans really enjoy. I've seen a number of letters and things online from fans. And it's almost like a repetitive theme where they'll say, early in his career, and then now they respect him because he tells it like it is, and he doesn't really worry about any kind of consequences or any fallout or things like that. He tells you what's on his mind, and that is so refreshing, not just for media but also for fans as well too. So I think that if anything, Kyle's definitely picking up a lot more fans. I never thought I would say this, but, in my opinion, he's not far away from becoming NASCAR's most popular driver. I think that it could very possibly be, the case maybe this year or next year. Not be surprised about that at all.
Fans love a winner. If you're a pro wrestling heel, but you have the title, then you're going to so I agree with you right there. And it's a different, almost, I think, maybe even refreshing change for the sport. And I think it's gotten some people to talk a lot, and we talked a little bit about the qualifying. And here, this is an old story, but remember last week, Kevin Harvick saying, look, group qualifying, if you can't draft here, why do you have 3 cars out on the track at the time? I didn't think it was that big of a deal when I was watching the qualifying, and of course, Bristol is not a track you're going to draft. we've talked about this, but yeah, there's an example. I mean, here's Kevin Harvick now saying, wait a minute, is this the best thing? Is this the best way to qualify? And I don't know, do you think it's the best way to qualify? What are your thoughts, Jerry?
Well, I wrote about that last week on NBCSports.com that, in my opinion, I don't want everybody on the track qualifying. I think that, to me, and again, this is my opinion only, effort, if you will, would be to have, 2, maybe 3 cars on the track at a time, depending upon what the track is. If it's a short track, maybe go 2 guys. If it's a bigger track like a Fontana, Talladega, Daytona, median mile and a half, I'd go maybe 3 cars at a time. And I think that way, you've got a couple things that happen that way, Marky. Number one, in a sense, this is kind of extrapolating it, but in a sense, you're getting a race within a race. If you see what I'm saying. You see who's got the better car among the 3 guys. If you got Jimmy Johnson, Clint Boyer, and Alex Bowman out there, you're going to know real quickly who's got the best car, of that 3, and then you can kind of get, have a better educated guess, if you will, on who you think is going to do well in the race, who's not going to do well in the race. And the other thing too is, I don't know if we really need to have, that many cars on a track plate on pit road. In the last possible second. So I think that it should be geared specifically to the individual tracks. And if they're bigger tracks, have maybe 3 or 4 guys qualify at a time. If they're smaller tracks, I'd go 2 or 3 tops. And that way, you'll get the same effort, but it'll be in a different format. And I think fans will appreciate that more, and especially the guys. If you do, 2 or 3 guys, the list of guys, let's say you're going to go out there and qualify 38th or 40th or whatever, you got a better advantage the later you qualify too as well.
Change the constant in NASCAR, so it always gives us something to say, and all that. It's a good sport to cover for that. Hey, by the way, speaking of which, I know you were speaking, the big story, that the humorous, we played the, was Kurt Busch saying that, I would have pushed my brother Kyle out of the way to win in Bristol if it came down to that, if I could have gotten close enough. And I know you were talking about, would he, the Civil War being played on Bristol Motor Speedway. What are your thoughts? Do you think that his brother...
Bingo, all fair and love in the war, except for when it comes to going for the win. You do what you got to do to win, and even if it is your brother, man, it could be your cousin, it could be your sister, it could be your mother. If it means to win, you're going to wreck them. And so I found that very refreshing. Kurt Busch he's very open, blunt, honest, whatever word you want to use, and he'll say what comes on his mind. And I'm sure he thought of that just as kind of an aside comment. And look how much we're still talking about it, 5 days later, 6 days later, whatever it is. So it got people talking, got people interested. And I'd be willing to bet you that when the race is so, you're probably going to see an uptick in TV ratings because fans are going to be saying, "Oh, it's up third. This is the kind of stuff we need more of. We need, I don't want to say controversy, but get people talking, get people wanting to, be geared up to want to see a race, to watch a race, go to a race."
I'm trying to remember. I know that was the tremendous drama and a tremendous race in Bristol and all that. And now all I can think of right now is, okay, was there ever a Dukes of Hazzard episode where Bo and Luke were, in different cars and trying to get, that sort of thing? That's what I'm taking from this here. So that shows you my mind is. And, okay, speaking of Saturday night, if you will, 7:30. Do you think that that'll improve the attendance at all? It was very disappointing, and I know that when there's not a lot of fans in Bristol, it does look like, if you'll use this analogy, an old Indians weekday night game at Cleveland Municipal Stadium, okay? It really does, but, could we expect maybe that this series goes into a Saturday night or something, that maybe the people in Richmond might then embrace it as a night out on the town instead of a Sunday afternoon, that maybe we'll get rained on or something? Do you think it'll be a bigger crowd?
Well, a couple things. You mentioned very good. They may not do this race until Monday, so that's something to keep in mind. But that being said, I've long been a proponent of having Saturday night races, even Friday night races for that matter. Sunday races are great. Don't get me wrong; they're great. Prime time. There's nothing like a night race to really get fans excited, both at track and also watching it on TV. And Richmond is the perfect place to have a night race. And Bristol would be a great place to have a night race in the spring. The problem, though, is if you were to have had
It's intriguing. I mean, I think it would be more for the TV viewer, but I got to tell you something. I remember, what was it, almost a decade ago, when because of weather, the Daytona 500 was on a Monday. That was big. People that didn't normally watch NASCAR racing were suddenly like, check this out. And I'll never forget, I used to listen and watch Don Imus, his morning show, and I'll never forget, he was saying that Mike Lupica called me. I couldn't believe that Mike Lupica had never watched a stock car race, but he hadn't. And he actually called Don Imus and said, how do I watch this thing? And, but that was the thing. I mean, that showed you how people who normally weren't watching NASCAR racing were watching it because it was on Monday night. And I always wondered why they didn't learn from that, because I always thought, you mentioned Wednesday night, but a Monday night race, I don't know if it's that they kind of realize attendance. You really will get a better attendance on a Sunday afternoon than you will a Monday night at some of these tracks. But, certainly we've learned about Saturday night and all this. We just hope the weather is conducive in Richmond. Although for the area sports fan, can you imagine what the choices that you have on a Saturday night for sports around here? You could watch the orange and white football game with the University of Tennessee, although I think that's kind of, you want to watch the box score on that one. The Predators are playing the second round of their playoff game, and then you've got the NASCAR race. That's quite a lot to use the clicker on. And we haven't even gotten to, say, the Major League Baseball games or something. So, yeah, a lot going on this weekend on a Saturday night. Jerry, let me just end it like I always do. Who do you think's going to win in Richmond? Is it going to be more of Kyle Busch? It would seem to be, you'd seem to be a fool to pick against him at this time, but you going to go out on a limb?
I'm not going on a limb. I mean, I'd hang myself if I did that. Kyle or Kurt, one of the two. And if they don't wreck each other, I think one of the two will win.
This time, maybe Kurt can stay with them, or vice versa, because Kyle was certainly talking about that after the race. I mean, endings like that throughout last year, and, the racing really was something special. I thought, who knows? We're thinking optimistically here, so let's see here. But no, it's, we'll see. But Busch, remember, 1:30, we're going to talk to Josh Brown, Knockahoma Nation, about new Mercer basketball coach Greg Gary, late of Purdue. Hey, how'd he beat Tennessee in the NCAAs? Tri-City Sports Now.